Ladies and gentlemen, we're back and better than ever, and we got a lot of stuff to catch you up on. So let's hop into this on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks, as always, for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Wherever you're getting those podcasts, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. You can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Before we get started, a quick shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Want to real quick thank you guys for the understanding and the patience. Had the last couple of days to myself to kind of recoup and regather myself from something that happened with my family. Everybody is okay. We're all moving on and doing better now. So appreciate you guys understanding. You're the best. I wouldn't have it any other way. But with that in mind, there's been a lot of stuff that has happened since I talked to you guys on Saturday. And that's what we're here today to talk about. We've got transfers, we've got recruiting, we've got extensions, we've got hires, a little bit of everything. It's always something university. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. Let's not waste any more time. We're going to go ahead and start with a transfer portal update. ASU has a lot of guys that have entered the portal. There are 5 players that stand out more than others, and I want to briefly touch on those 5 and give an update for the one guy that we do have an update for, and we can go ahead and start with him, and that's Jordan Clark, the nickelback, cornerback, safety, whatever. You put him in the secondary, dude was going to make plays. So it was a very, very tough loss for Arizona State, not just from a playing standpoint, but also from a veteran leadership standpoint. He's been at ASU for 4 years, 5 years, something like that, and has really turned into a very powerful vocal leader for the team. Someone who leads by example. Somebody who is the voice and the heart and soul of this team, not just the defense. Jordan Clark was part of the epitome of what this new culture was going to be about, because he saw the Herm Edwards era, and he was there for the Sean Aguano transition. Of course, with Kenny Dillingham coming in, there was a very heavy, very needed emphasis on having somebody in-house who would be able to take that leadership role. And you had a lot of guys coming in for transfers, and you had a lot of freshmen that were coming in too. There's a lot of moving pieces, and Jordan Clark was a staple for what got them on the right track. So he was a bummer to see go, but he's one of the guys that I'm rooting for to find a new niche with his new team. I'm not rooting against guys, I should say. He's one of the guys that I'll be paying the most attention to. Not rooting against anyone. He has found himself at Notre Dame. Ryan Clark stated on his podcast he has with Daniel Cormier that Kenny Dillingham had called Marcus Freeman, the head coach at Notre Dame, and basically said, hey, is Jordan there? And, Coach Freeman said, yes, he's here. And Dilly told him, this kid is outstanding, and proceeds to brag about him and, build up Jordan Clark to Coach Freeman. Ryan Clark said it was 5 to 10 minutes that Marcus was on the phone with Coach Dillingham, and he's just building this kid up, and, he's a great player, and he's a great leader, someone that you definitely want in your locker room. And to me, that speaks volumes about Kenny Dillingham and Jordan Clark, that even though these two have parted ways, that Dilly is still going to be boosting up Clark. And it also speaks to Clark as an individual, because you're not just going to have a head coach come out here and build you up with lies. Kenny Dillingham is not in the lying business. He's in the business of trying to promote his guys and get them to the next level. He said at his opening press conference, he said, if you guys the players are looking to transfer, let me know, and I will be somebody that helps you out. And it's not personal. He doesn't sit there and look at it as like you're a bad player or anything like that because you want to transfer from the program. He's interested in you being able to put your next best step forward. And that was clearly evident with Jordan Clark, is him really kind of putting that out there. And he's done that for a lot of these transfers. A lot of these guys that are out of eligibility, they post stuff on Twitter like, hey, I'm going to the NFL draft. Hey, I'm entering the transfer portal. And you see Dillingham, he retweets it. He's like, this is a great kid. Whoever gets him is getting a real one. Like, that to me speaks volumes about the culture that they're trying to set here. And unfortunately, you still lose guys. And that feels like a good segue for some of the other guys that you're losing. Is tight end Jalin Conyers has entered. Defensive lineman BJ Green has entered. Quarterback Drew Pyne has entered. Goodness gracious. And Isaiah Glass entered midseason. You, of course, have had some other guys as well. James Jonkum, Javen Jacobs. Like, there's no shortage of guys that have entered the portal. And it is a bummer to lose some of those guys. Lose most of those guys, if not all of those guys. But the biggest thing here that I see is that Dillingham is being able to have these guys built up to where they will be wanted commodities. I mean, Jalin Conyers is likely going to go to a very talented Power 5 school. Drew Pyne, as a graduate transfer, is likely looking at a very good opportunity for himself to start. Isaiah Glass, I'm sure, will be able to find a niche somewhere. BJ Green is also going to get a really good chance to go to a very talented Power 5 program. Dillingham is dealing with losses right now, but of course, having Trenton Bourguet back instead of opting to go into the transfer portal or declare for the NFL draft is going to be really important to continue that culture setting that they're doing right now. I think that there's a lot of really good things that ASU is doing, and I want them to be able to continue that, but it's tough when you have these losses, and it's interesting to kind of speculate on what it could be. So you look at guys like Conyers, Green, and Clark, three of the biggest players on your team. One of the common denominators for all these guys transferring, and we've seen it the last 2 years, when you lose Ricky Pearsall, when you lose Jaden Daniels, when you lose Johnny Wilson, when you lose all sorts of players, Omar Norman Lott, a lot of it, more often than not, seems to come down to NIL. And ASU still has a long ways to go with NIL. And look, I know that there's going to be a lot of people that don't like NIL. My grandmother, as much as I love her, is one of those people that doesn't care for the NIL, and I understand it. But it's, Thanos once said, shred it, run from it, your destiny still arrives, and now it's here. It's just the name of the game. And for ASU, these guys are looking to be able to make a little bit of money on themselves. And again, this is speculation. This isn't to say Jalin Conyers only transferred for NIL. I'm sure that these guys are also looking for opportunities to grow their brand, but I feel like it would be very irresponsible and very ignorant to say that NIL is not taking a part in these guys looking for opportunities. So ASU's got to be able to take a step forward with their NIL opportunities, because once you start getting to a point where you can have these players come in and make some money, not millions of dollars, but be able to make some money, you're going to start seeing guys that are staying more often. You're going to see guys that are going to be coming to the program through the transfer portal. It's all part of the process. It's all a part of today's game. So these losses, look, they absolutely suck, but it's just part of the nature of college football right now. Right, wrong, indifferent, love it or hate it. It's just the way it is right now. Again, I really want to emphasize, I'm not in these guys' heads. I don't know if they're leaving for NIL. I don't know if they're leaving for playing time. I don't know if they're leaving to better themselves. Maybe a combination of the three. But the bottom line is the NIL's got to be able to take a step forward, because without it, you're going to see this continue to be a problem. Guys, I know that we talk a lot about sports here. It's our escape from reality. But for a quick moment, I want to talk to you guys about preparing for real life. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. It's scary. And I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if my grandmother or one of my grandparents or one of my nieces or nephews got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from the life-saving medication that they need. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinuses, skin infections, among others. This stuff could help any and all of us. Visit jacemedical.com, that's spelled Jase medical.com, and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been easier and more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com, again spelled Jase medical.com, and use the offer code Locked On for $20 off of your order. If you haven't subscribed to the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, how are you staying up to date with everything, guys? It's 24/7. It's the top stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, our national shows covering every team as well. So football, basketball, baseball, hockey, we got you covered. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Also want to shout out all of you guys that are tuning in every day. My everydayers, love you guys to pieces. Make sure that you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcasts. Let's get back into our conversation. We're going to go ahead and flip it to a lighter side of things, and that is the recruiting side. And look, there is one massive piece of information that I need to update you guys on, and that is that running back consensus 4-star, number 3 prospect in Washington, and number 13 overall running back in the nation, Jason Brown, is committing to Arizona State. This is huge. He's going to end up being the second highest recruit that Kenny Dillingham has in 2 years. He is a consensus 4-star, as I mentioned, and a top 15 running back in the country. That's, last I checked, that's pretty dang good to be able to get a guy like that to come to the university. And there's no shortage of talent in the running back group this year. He's one of the handful of 4-star kids. He's just got a lot of really good things going for him. And then you look at the fact that he is the 3rd best prospect in the state of Washington. What I look at when it comes to that kind of stuff is you're branching out and you're showing your ability to not just recruit within your region, but go all over the country. I mean, ASU has been able to reach out to, Florida. They've been able to reach out to Hawaii. They've been able to reach out to Washington now, Louisiana. It's not just the regional stuff. You're branching out across the country. You're branching out to Hawaii, which you just love to be able to see that Arizona State is finding ways to be able to add talent in more ways than one. I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen with the transfer portal. As of yet, there's nothing huge that has come through the portal. I don't think there's been anything that I have seen, at least up to this point of 4 p.m. on Wednesday, December 6th. I have not seen anything. Of course, something would probably break while I'm recording and uploading this, but we're waiting to see how they're going to attack the transfer class. But in the meantime, looking at the recruiting class, you're doing some really good damage. I typically look at 24/7 Sports when I take a look at the recruiting rankings. So keep that in mind. But you've got 2 4-stars with Jason Brown, the running back, and tight end Jaden Fortier. For what it's worth, Fortier was a huge advocate to get Jason Brown down here. He definitely felt like one of the biggest driving forces to be able to convince a guy like Jason Brown to come to Arizona State. When Brown committed, I mean, they had pictures together. They had pictures of them in their uniforms and hanging out. Like, that's awesome to see that these guys are creating chemistry and brotherhood and all that good stuff between the two of them before they've even gotten to the university together. That's huge. You love to see it. And I hope that's going to be a continued trend that you're going to see here is guys like Jaden Fortier, guys like Jason Brown are able to help bring up the recruiting here. You've also got Elijah Besa, who's an 89 on the recruiting rankings, which it might as well be a 4-star, man. He's a very, very high 3-star. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to round up and I'm going to call him a 4-star. You've got Chris Johnson. You got Rodney Bonmage. You've got Zachariah Sample. You've got Plas Johnson. You've got, who's another big one from the class? Martell Hughes, the 5-star punter, Kenyon Floyd. There's a lot of good talent that's coming in. And I'm really excited about this recruiting class. It's currently ranked 50th in the nation overall, 49th in the composite ranking. And as of yet, we still don't have a transfer rank yet. So once ASU is going to be attacking the transfer portal, because I promise you, they're going to be attacking the transfer portal and they're going to be very, very, very aggressive. I'm assuming tight end, linebacker, offensive line, defensive backs are probably where you're going to see the most resources spent to be bringing in that kind of talent. I would not be surprised they looked at a quarterback as well. Probably some special teams guys, returners, kickers, for sure. There's a lot of change that's coming to Arizona State. But I feel like you just have to be so excited to see how quickly the recruiting is coming around for Arizona State. I've said this so many times, and I will continue to say it. The 5 stars will come. I guarantee it. We are going to see 5 stars. I've said within the first 5 years of Kenny Dillingham, it might be sooner because there are very talented kids in the state of Arizona, in Southern Cal, in Texas, that ASU is going to have that prowess to be able to attack. But now you're showing that you can attack throughout the country. I have a feeling that ASU recruiting is only going to get better from here. I'm really, really looking forward to the next step that they're going to be able to take right now. But the bottom line, the recruiting is taking a nice bump up thanks to the commitment from Jason Brown, courtesy of Jaden Fortier. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide variety of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. One more time, I want to bring to your attention the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Top stories of the day are local experts, national stories, and shows for every league. So if you're a football fan, a baseball fan, hockey, basketball, it's all covered 24/7. So do me a favor. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. And of course, one more time, a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. I see you guys. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Let's go ahead and wrap up our conversation today, taking a look at some of the in-house moves and the hiring moves that the coaching staff has done. And I feel like a really good start is to talk about the extensions that came out today for wide receivers coach / passing game coordinator Rashad Samples and for cornerbacks coach Bryan Carrington. The two of them received contract extensions today, which is huge for the team in more than one way. First, we can talk about the in-house ways that they do it. And it's the coaching philosophy that these guys have introduced to the team. One of the things that, Coach Samples had told me over and over again when I talked to him in the offseason, when I talked to him during training camp, any opportunity that I talked to Coach Samples, what are you focusing on? What are you focusing on? What do you want to see improvement from? Every single time, it's not route running. It's not catching the ball. He wants to improve the physicality, especially in the run game. He wants his guys to be able to go out and block. He continually would tell you it's about being able to be above yourself and to be able to have that team effort to go out there and be a selfless football player. He doesn't want his guys to be worried about stats. He doesn't want guys to be, I want 1,000 yards. I want 100 catches. I want 20 touchdowns. He doesn't want those guys. He wants guys that are going to be selfless for the team, put their best step forward, and consistently do their 111th. You've heard this hundreds of times at this point. Listening to me, listening to others, listening to the players, the coaches, everybody says, do your 111th. That is the philosophy that these guys have been preaching. Bryan Carrington, too. It's one thing for Carrington to want to teach these guys how to flip their hips, how to mirror and match, how to play the ball when it's in the air. But again, he talks about wanting his guys to be physical. I want you to be able to go up to the line of scrimmage. I want you to be able to get after the quarterback. I want you to be able to stop the run. We're not just interested in doing what your position is like definition-wise supposed to do, quotation marks. Yes. Someone asks you what a wide receiver does. You say they catch the football. Someone asks you what a corner does. You say they cover the receiver. But they're more focused on the intricacies of the position and the fundamentals and making sure that these guys are able to do more than one thing. You see guys get to the pros and they're one-trick ponies. He doesn't want his guys to be that. There is a very attractive aspect of seeing a receiver who's willing to block and get dirty. There is an aspect that you really like out of your defensive backs and especially your corners who are able to play the run, because that's not a common commodity that you see in today's league. But that's where Samples, that's where Carrington are so interested and so consistently trying to press that issue and make it one of the strengths of this team. They want these guys to be able to play above what the definition of their position is. I love that. And I also love it because of what it does for recruiting. In case you are unaware, Rashad Samples and Bryan Carrington are two of the absolute biggest pieces when it comes to the recruiting side of things for Arizona State. They are constantly traveling and they're constantly being able to build up this university, being able to build up the Valley, the program itself, right? They do so many things to be able to sell to these kids, hey, you come to Arizona State and I promise you, you're going to love every single second of it. You know, it's not just about being able to turn this football program into something special. It's about selling these kids on their futures and letting them know that there's going to be those opportunities to become very good football players, but also to get an education and take that step forward as a young man and as somebody who is trying to navigate themselves through life. That's what I love about them. They sell you on more than one thing. I really like what they bring to the table there. And I think the last thing that we can talk about here to really kind of bring everything together now is to talk about the new offensive coordinator that is coming to Arizona State, and that is Marcus Arroyo. Arroyo was the previous head coach at UNLV. He was there for 2 years. Obviously didn't work out, but he is coming to Arizona State as the full-time offensive coordinator. He's going to be someone who's going to be working very close with Kenny Dillingham. You're hoping that they are able to create and establish that chemistry that you didn't really see with Beau Baldwin. That's where you want to be able to take that step forward, is you want those personalities and those philosophies when calling the offense to be able to come together. I think that there was kind of a little bit of awkwardness between Beau Baldwin and Kenny Dillingham. Yes, Baldwin's offense did not really get things done in the first 3 weeks the way we hoped to, but that's not necessarily saying that he was bad at his job. He just didn't mesh as well as what we had hoped. And I think that Arroyo is hopefully going to be that guy. You know, Kenny Dillingham is getting a lot more say in being able to establish the guys that he wants as his coordinators and as his positional coaches and whatnot. He had his first year to kind of figure that out. And he had very veteran guys and vocal guys be able to help out, like Charlie Raggle, like Vince Amy, guys who can come in and be able to help you build that team up. Now he's got his feet underneath him a little bit and he's got his feet wet. And hopefully that the Arroyo hire can be something that you can really build on moving forward. I'm really excited for the Arroyo hire. He also, for what it's worth, was at Oregon for 3 years before he went to UNLV in various positions, but he was the offensive coordinator at one point. He's definitely somebody that has that kind of niche when it comes to play calling that is unpredictable. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the unpredictable factor because that's when we saw Arizona State at its best. When they had guys doing different things, when they had guys that were able to do more than just what their position is supposed to do. They had receivers that were getting sweeps. They had tight ends that were running under center. They had running backs that were punting. Like, you want to be able to continue to see that. And I think if anybody's going to be able to work with Dillingham on that, it's probably somebody that previously worked at Oregon, where anything and everything goes. And then he worked with Mario Cristobal, who's the head coach at Miami now. He was an offensive mind. Like, there are pieces to connect here that make me think that the Arroyo hire is going to be a good hire. But I'm curious what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think about the transfer portal. Who are you looking for? What do you think of recruiting? Who do you want to see next? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Bradshaw, Richie Brads with a Z, 36. You can find the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. But wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Again, I appreciate you guys being understanding and, giving me a little bit of space to kind of collect myself. We're going to be back to everyday content. We're going to have some bonus content on the weekends to make up for stuff. There's still going to be YouTube shorts when something big happens. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed. I'll be sure to update you guys whenever we get those opportunities. I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.